Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. First of all, thanks for the organization for having me here. And today we are going to talk about a little bit about the do's and the don'ts in pharmaceutical. What a topic. Let's see how we go ahead. So when we start working in any business, the main question that we start doing ourselves is how we should move ahead. And how do we move ahead in terms of product, in terms of business, in terms of legal framework, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a couple of questions that we start thinking about. So the first one, it's if we should be more strategic or opportunistic. And when thinking in pharma, there's a first good recommendation that I can give you, and it's really to find your sweet spot. Let me take this example on the right side, and it's Pfizer. Pfizer, it's a company that I have the opportunity to work for a couple of years. And what they said is that the only thing constant in Pfizer, it's the change. Pfizer is a company that for several years acquired 49 different companies. And after time, what they solve as a strategic decision, it's really to keep themselves into, hold on, where's the pointer? Into the innovative space. So they sold the animal part, they sold the consumer part, and they really focus into the innovative part. What a challenge for us in the cannabis industry, where everything seems to be an opportunity, from gummy bears to beers up to orphan drugs. So this could be really an opportunity or a challenge. So once again, finding the sweet spot, it's of the essence for everyone on us once we start working in this industry. And let's move ahead. So when a couple of years ago, I remember all these reports that we received were talking about the addressable market. And we saw these double-digit billions that we were all dreaming about. Guess what? Nothing happened. Forecast accuracy in cannabis business has nothing to do what has to be with pharma business. And the reason why, it's because we are basing our questions in these type of things. So it's geographic, it's supply versus demand. We always say in cannabis, the demand is much more higher than the supply. And now the storage are up to the top. What is happening really? Medical use, adult use. So there's a couple of questions, but always was related to the addressable market. So when you think about sustainability and you're finding your sweet spot, it's also very important that you have to think about how to create sustainability. So there's a new language coming on, and it's around more the patents. It's more about the cost of the production. Now the investors are not in the top line, are more in the bottom line. And we have to be profitable. We not only have to sell, which is already very difficult, but we also have to be profitable. The value chain, all these vertically integrated, which in Avextra we are vertically integrated, but really finding which is the DNA of our company. And last but not least, R&D investments. So when you think about addressable market, it's also talking about beyond cannabis. So pain, let's talk about pain. And this is one of the many examples that we can give. So when you talk about pain, 70% of the patients in Germany are under pain condition, and that's a reality. So we were thinking, pain, chronic pain, neuropathic pain, CINP, all these things related to pain. But what is really happening in the pharma business related to pain? So up to 17,000 clinical trials are as for today going on. So even if we are super proud of what we can do and what we can achieve, do we really think we can beat those big ones in these big spaces? Don't we better think about a much more narrow and niche space where we can really play and where we can really win? And if you take a look what is happening in the clinical trials related to cannabinoids, guess what? We don't have that much. This is a total number, not even related to pain. Actually, pain is one of the fewest conditions that has been studied, and we will get more to that. So when you think about how to get to that spot, I'm going to take my company, Avextra, as an example. And it's that we decide where to play. And where to play, it's very important. It's not a good or a bad decision, but it's a decision. Making the decision, it's really what matters. So we as Avextra, we decide to play in the medicinal space. We do believe that the medicinal space My God, this is shaking. The medicinal space is the one that we really are looking forward. And you have to prepare yourself for that. It's making the decision and putting the investment on that. So we decide to put 30% of our budget into R&D. We decide to put a team in place of a very capable people with pharmaceutical background, putting their knowledge also over the table so that we can start building our own capabilities. And then when we decide, the second point, it's when we decide, okay, we know where do we want to play. Now, what are we going to sell? And the second topic, very important in pharma, it's the portfolio optimization. Portfolio optimization and life cycle management is one of the things that we should definitely think about how pharma is thinking right now. Patient centricity, I think it's in all the PowerPoint presentation that a pharma company can have. Really patient centricity and having patient at first. Cannabis was completely different because patients were the one who raising their voice and say, hey, I need this. I need more structure and standardized products. So we need to start running behind and develop our products. But then we start developing the products that we can create, maybe not what they need. And it's not a secret, for example, that Sativex, part of the not successful story of Sativex, is because the alcohol that they are containing is going to reduce the therapy adherence because the patients have aphthous. And that's a reality. Maybe if Sativex and the people from JW can raise their hand and ask the patient what they really need, maybe ethanol will not be the best solution. However, they will going to be later in market. So it's also like a trade-off. Do you want to be first or do you want to have a product in place? But when defining our portfolio, it's really understanding what the patient needs. And look what we have right now. This is Germany, and this is the latest report from our colleagues in Inside Health. So when I arrived this country, it was 4 years ago. And I do remember that there was around 11 SKUs in the extract market. This is only the extract market. This is not dronabinol, only extract market. Right now, it goes up to 70, and listed, you can have up to 100. And guess what? Look at this. So this is the market share that it's absolutely concentrate in a few, very few players. So this is really the differentiation that we are looking for. It's really the differentiation into more oral solutions. And we keep seeing companies launching this type of products. I'm not saying that it's a good or bad idea, but maybe we should start thinking in other ways to differentiate ourselves. Or maybe it will be also important to understand what really patient needs. And when you think about what really patient needs, it's not only about the condition itself. It's a patient with a psychiatric disorder, with movement disorders. It's a patient that has a journey, another very traditional word or sentence in pharmaceutical, and it's understanding the patient journey. And when we understand that a patient is a complete ecosystem, you can find amazing opportunities also of revenue generation. Let me give you an example. For example, therapy adherence. We learned from the registry in Germany that 52% of the patients have a therapy adherence. When you talk about chronic disease in pharmaceutical, you have therapy adherence around 70 to 75. Oncology goes up to 90. Why? Because the patient is absolutely committed to their treatment. In cannabis, it's not happening. Why? Burdening the access, they are not seeing the results, they have adverse events. What is really happening that the patients are not taking the medication? Maybe they need a medication for the daytime and then maybe another one for the nighttime. What is really happening? And those kind of questions are the ones that we can only solve by understanding the patient ecosystem. Let's go to the third one. We talk about the what, we talk about what to sell, now how to sell it. And in this one, I think there's also tremendous opportunities that the marketing and the sales teams and access teams can take a look how the pharmaceutical industry is doing this. So you can have differentiation in product, very price driven. And we are seeing now, for example, how the dronabinol business, it's running into really, really price war. Or you can differentiate yourself with services. So beyond, if you have a model of a B2B or a B2C business, you have clients, and understanding what the client needs, what the pharmacy needs, what the patient needs, that's also very important to understand. Define the target audience and how to reach them. So are we really conscious when launching our products and new magistral preparation in any of our countries if this is target to a naive patient or for a switch? And guess what? Most of the strategies are now addressed to switching patients. But why my product is better than my neighbors? It's exactly the same bottle, maybe another tag, that's it. So what is my proposal to make that shift? Or maybe what we can do is maybe enlarge the base and get access to more patients. Marketing, outbound to inbound. So this is a push versus a pull. And what we are seeing right now in pharma, it's also that it's a pull. It's not getting with this super big communication and email campaigns to everyone around the world. It's really trying to segment and target the physicians that we are reaching and having very defined communications for each one of the targets. And digital. Digital, it's definitely something, this is not rocket science, that it's here to stay. How much can we do in cannabis right now, and how much from our budgets we can afford to invest in digital? Maybe we are not that far. But opportunities as the electronic prescription here in Germany, it's worth it to take a look over. So don't put it in the parking lot for a long time. This is really here to stay. And I think there are a couple of companies in the cannabis industry here in Germany. Also, my company, Bextra, we are working in how to digitalize much more the communication with physicians and pharmacies. When you take a look after COVID, that all the sales reps went out, the pharma was like shocked. What is going to happen? Sales are going down? No, sales didn't go down. Sales remained the same. But then the question comes back. So what are we going to do with all our sales teams? How we are going to reorganize ourselves? Is the famous omni-channel marketing the thing that we need to implement? And this is very interesting to see how physicians are now requesting more digital interactions rather than face-to-face interactions. I do believe that we have a strong challenge with physicians and pharmacies to build trust in a face-to-face interaction. So maybe for cannabis, we need to increase it a little bit more. But having a combined strategy in how to reach physicians, it's definitely of the essence. And when we talk about the physicians and you talk to your sales teams, they said what they are asking is data. So to every single congress that you go, always the conclusion will be, we need to create more data. So that's the fourth topic, data. Which kind of data? For what? To whom? All of our companies, we are planning to jump into the same pharmaceutical world, or there are some companies that would like to stay in the magistral preparation route and the non-license, which is already good. Or maybe there are some other companies that are only going to stay more in the wellness stage. So which kind of data is really the one that you need to develop? So this is the evolution of the data for medicinal market, starting in case reports from non-interventional studies and real-world evidence, jumping to systematic review. This is really funny, this pointer. The systematic reviews. And what's really interesting is that it's really growing. But the investment that you have to do, in a case report versus on our RCT, it's completely different. The effort that you have to have, it's completely different. And guess what? We also realized that everyone was saying, let's create real-world evidence. But with the current regulation that we have in the pharmaceutical industry in Europe, you have to submit your trials. So it's not that easy. It's that let's just collect data. It's not that easy. So let's be honest. The first thing is for us to understand, why do we need that data? If you are planning to remain in the magistral preparation, you need to build your data for the physicians. On the other hand, if you decide to jump in the pharmaceutical world, well, you have to have some investments in randomized controlled trials, and you have to understand that this is a long run. And these are the numbers of clinical trials in Germany and in Europe, and this one in Germany, on what is really happening. So there's not too much going on. It is roughly on the right side, it's roughly like 70 clinical trials. This is from 2020 to 2023. And this one, it's the German registry for interventional and non-interventional trials. So how many companies are we? I don't know, 50, 60, 18 clinical trials? So there's really not much what we are doing on this side. Once again, it's not good or bad. If we are saying that we need data, let's understand what we are going to do ahead. Maybe what we really need to think about is to give the physicians a baseline for make the prescription, and the data need to think about in that way. They need to clarify two things: safety and security, safety and efficacy. Those are the two things, but you don't need a full randomized control trial maybe to do that. It's a standardized product, maybe what you need. Let's continue. However, this is a very important, this is something that really kept my attention. Despite you have very few numbers in clinical trials, take a look over the patent applications. And if you take a look over the companies submitting these patent applications worldwide, the only famous name that you can follow, well, guess what? Obviously, it's just pharmaceuticals. The other ones are pure researchers that are developing platforms that will enable for further developments. So what is really happening in this? Why few clinical trials and a lot of patents? Because these people, it's really thinking in how the R&D investment is going to look like. Once you have the patent, it's where you can start doing all the drug development plan. And there are two things in pharma that are usually like the challenge for the cannabis industry: time and money. So when I first joined my first cannabis company, I do remember that one of my interviews was, what are the challenges to make a finished product? Time and money. 10 years and a couple of millions, if not billions. So can we do it in another way? And I do believe that there are ways to do it. And the first clear example, not maybe the time, the money, but really the time, it's all what the vaccines business and the industry did a couple of years ago. So there's ways to do it. And how we should think about this, the critical studies optimization. So all the toxicology reports, how can we optimize this? Can we take something what it's already done? Yes or not? What can be done in parallel? So there are a couple of groups also doing proof of concepts. For the regulatory people can understand what I'm really talking. Minimize the risk. How much are we really talking with the agencies? Are we in touch with the agencies? Are we thinking in decentralized models? How are we thinking about our regulatory pathway? And the use of this data that we are creating, the non-interventional trials, it's not going to be a pivotal data for a clinical study. This is going to be supportive, but it's worth it to have it. Definitely, it's something that can really support to do your things, your clinical plan. And basically, why clinical trials plus patents? The answer is easy, because this is what Big Pharma is looking for. So this is a chart that shows the different phases where the M&As are taking place right now in the pharmaceutical industry. So what we heard is that they are getting patent expirations, and they are not longer doing their own developments. They are hunting out there. And this is very clear. Look for the venture deals. So this is preclinical, even in preclinical, phase 1s and phase 2. So for the ones who knows about this business can understand that the phase 3, it's the really where you have to put a lot of money over the table. But if we have a conscious way on how to optimize our investment, doing preclinicals and phase 1, it's not a crazy idea. Once again, for the ones thinking in this crazy pharmaceutical business. So this is what is happening. So they're watching us, but we need to create this. We really need to create these platforms. And then we say, this is something that's just to continue the fifth point around pharmaceutical business, and that I continue hearing also in the cannabis business. We are unique. Our business is different. Those rules won't apply for me. That happened to biosimilars, that happened to rare diseases, that happened to several different therapeutical areas. We are different, yeah, cannabis business, it's different, but we are all on the same sky. And what does that mean? I will say, and this is more a bet, I will not expect to have a unique cannabis regulation for medical approval. What we can definitely see is that our products can fall under the regulations that are in place, both for medicines or herbal products. And what we need to think is how to improve our clinical plan. So just because we are different and our business is different, let's face it, the world is not going to walk to us. We need to walk to the world, to the pharmaceutical world. They are big enough and they are looking at us like, okay, if you want, you can join us, but I will not change my whole world because of you. We can have very good experience to share, and we can have very good experience in how a single component can act in a flexible way in different kind of patients. And I think that's the magic of the cannabinoids, but it's not going to happen. So really to have a definition on APIs, and here we have clear examples also from our colleagues in JAS, Epidiolex with isolates approved in EMA and FDA. However, Sativex only approved in EMA. Why not in FDA? Long story. Characterization of botanicals seems not to be that easy. Type of product. There's medicinal, there's not that much, it's already written. Medicinals, herbals, so depending on the API, you will take your choice. Regulatory pathway, they are already there. And there are some that are going to apply to us and some that won't apply. So small molecules, biologicals, it won't apply. But medicines and orphans, and why not pediatric? Thinking pediatrics could be also a good idea. Type of submission, and that's what we are saying. The type of submissions are also clearly defined. FDA, it's a little bit ahead of EMA in how they are setting up all the rules for the industry. I will say that, in my opinion, EMA should be more conscious in how to promote the research incentives for the different companies, because there's not too much that incentivize our companies to do that well. We have a full magister market out there. And then the type of dossier, what we are doing, there's not too much shortcuts that we can do. Last but not least, I was talking this in the very beginning, building trust. And this is very important, because I do believe that all of us that we are sitting together, we are looking for a financial sustainability from our companies. And building trust is the first thing. In the medicinal market, in the pharmaceutical market, breaking that bias of being high, it's of the essence. It's very, very important, because we are talking about medicines and we are talking about patients. We are not talking about getting high. I will leave that for my colleagues in the recreational market. But in the medicinal market, it's effects and outcomes. That's what we are looking for patients. Once again, investors go from top line to bottom line, and that's also very important how we are using our resources. Trust requires commitment, so liability in the full supply chain, and that's more for our colleagues in the companies that are working with APIs. So we are really relying on you, on what you can also provide to us, or we as developers can provide in the long term. And we are one single industry, so let's work together. Let's not throw everyone down the bus and talk about one to each other. Let's act collectively. So which will be your sweet spot? And that will be, okay, this is my last slide. So which will be really your sweet spot? And I will finalize with this. Where do you want to play? And remember, there's a huge amount of opportunities. The path that you take away, be mindful about time and money. And that will go directly to your investors and your financial background. There are low-hanging fruits, which I'm quite not sure if they're really existing, and there's the long term. For us in the medicinal market, this is a long run, and we need to face it. Before 5-10 years, it's going to be critical to have something tangible. If you want to be in pharma, you need to build your capabilities. And all these small names, GCPs, GMPs, pharmacovigilance, all that, you need to have it. You receive an audit and you're a pharmaceutical company. So be aware of that. Efforts in having commercial exclusivity are always worth it. So to have an orphan drug designation, in EMA there are only 14. To have commercial exclusivity with payers, all those kind of activities that really reinforce the access, what we are saying, it's important to have it. What we were talking about, the data. Data will not be the same depending on the purpose that you are trying to achieve. So let's reduce a little bit the stress of doing randomized controlled trials. If you're not jumping into pharma, there are other ways to do it. Leave that to us, the ones that are crazy thinking about those 10 or 15 years. Avoid the shortcuts. Let's not try to get the pharma world into us. Let's try to harmonize what we can do together. And my last message is, there's a space for all. What we have seen in the recent years is that each time our companies are finding the place to be. So the more articulated that we can work together, I think it's going to be the best way for the whole industry. Thank you so much.